Hello and welcome back. So in today's video we're going to be having a look at attributes in Unity and how we can use them to better structure our inspector for your own use and for any designers working on your project. So I've already made a script, which you can see here, just called move, and I have it put onto our camera. So if we just open up our script, you can see that I have a public int. A lot of the time we'll have this set as public so that we can come down here and set the value in the inspector. But we don't really want to have it set as public unless it's going to be accessed by another script. So we should always have it set to private if it's only going to be used in this one class. So yeah, if we want to have this visible in inspector, what we can do instead is put our square brackets and just write SerializeField. Save that, and now if we come over to Unity, wait for our script to update, although you will see no change because we can still edit it here even though it's a private. So that's a super useful thing to have. But what else can we do? So let's make this a public again, and let's say that it does need to be accessed by another script, but we never need to do anything in the inspector. And obviously if we have it set like this, it's going to show up in the inspector, and well, we don't want that because we're never going to need to change it. Another script's going to do that. So what we can do instead is come up here and put our square brackets and just hide in inspector. Pretty simple thing so far. Let that update, and you'll see it's gone, even though it's public and can still be accessed by other scripts. So cool, there's some pretty cool things we can do, but what else can we do? Let's just make this a private one that's shown again. Oops. What if we want to have a header? So we can go here and just write header, and then our header needs to have a title, obviously. Oops. So just go this like movement values. Now if we save this and come back over, you'll see we have a little title here for this section. You can also do a little bit of laying out to make it a little bit nicer. So just copy that, call that speed 2, and then where we have these headers, just add a space with like 10. 10 seems to be about a line worth. Copy that, put one above the header as well. And now we'll have two different sections with a little bit of nice spacing between the names. So as you can see, it makes it very nice for laying everything out and making it easier to read. But let's do some other things. So for these ints, instead of just having it as a number that gets set in the inspector, we can come and put our brackets again and just write range, and then we just need to put in a range. So let's have it from like 0 to 10. We'll do this for both of them again. Actually, I'll put this up here, and then we'll just delete this one because we don't really need it. It's just to show the layout. But now if we come back over to Unity, we will have a nice slider instead. So, whoops. And as you can see, now we can go from 0 to 10 on the slider, which is our speed, and it's in our movement values. All pretty cool stuff so far. And also it's private, except for it's visible because of this. So what else can we do? There's a few other things. Let's come back over to Unity and let's just make another script. Whoops. My computer is not liking this. Okay, so I'm not really sure what was happening then, but I just had to restart Unity and everything's working fine now. But yeah, I made a new script and I called it mover. So now if we just open up our move script. So let's say whenever we use our script move on an object, we also need to use the script mover. Instead of adding both of them, what we can do is just come down and add our square brackets again and go RequireComponent, and then type of component, so we'll say type of, and here we just put our mover. So now if we save this, come over to Unity, over to our camera, and we just remove this script. Now if we add the move again, whoops, we also get the mover script because it is required, so it automatically gets added. Another cool thing is if we try and remove it, we can't because it's required. So yeah, that's another pretty cool thing we can do. Something I probably should have mentioned when we were down here before is that you can also leave little notes to your designers. So you can come down here and just write in our tooltip. Make our tooltip the speed we will move. And now if we come into Unity, let it load again, of course, and come over here and just hold over it, we get the speed we will move. So these are some pretty cool things so far, but there's a lot more we can do. So let's say we have a public string, and our string is just our text, and so let's just quickly have a look what that looks like in the inspector normally. So we get this little window here, but if we want to add a lot, it becomes a little bit annoying. So we can fix that by coming into Unity, and again, adding our square brackets, and in here we can just write TextArea. Now if we save that, come back over to Unity. Is that right, Ali? You can see we have a bigger area to type now. But if we want to have a bigger area but not quite this big, we can also, instead of using TextArea, oops, we can use Multiline, and this is what Multiline looks like. Yeah, so you save a little bit of space. You notice more when you're like this, because if this was TextArea, this would be going like all the way over here. But yeah, so what else can we do? We've covered tooltips. How long is this video so far? Okay, so we have time to cover context menus, so we'll do that as well. So we'll start off by coming and adding a public void. We'll just call it do a thing. Is that right, Ali? The thing it's going to do is just print off a line saying that it did a thing. Cool, so now we have a little void, and whenever we call it, we're just going to print did a thing. A lot of the times what I used to do to trigger this kind of thing was just have like a button press or something, and when you press down the button, it would do that, and that was how I would test the function if I didn't have it like integrated yet. But there's a lot easier way to do it, which is just to add our brackets and make it a context menu, and we'll give it a name of do a thing. And now if we save that and come back into Unity, wait for it to load, then we can click on this little cog and we have do a thing here, and when we click it, did a thing comes up. Ali. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But we can also use context menu in a slightly different way. So if we want to come to speed, and let's say that we had a function which would set our speed or something like that, we can come in and use our context menu, but instead of using our context menu, we'll use our context menu item, and we'll just go something like, we'll call it change speed, even though it's just going to print did a thing, but let's just pretend it is changing the speed. And then the function we want to call, which is do a thing. Now if we save that, come back into Unity, we can right click on speed and change speed, and we also trigger do a thing. So you can use that if you want to have like random values, or use it however you want, but it's a way of easily using a function to set a value via the inspector. So that's pretty cool, but there is she's being very talkative. Okay, and the last thing we're going to cover is a pretty cool thing we can do. It's a little bit different. Okay, and the last thing we're going to cover is a little bit different from everything else we've done, and it's pretty cool. So let's just get rid of this to begin with and make this a static. Basically, a static means that this is, it belongs to the class instead of the object. This can be ran even if this script isn't on an object in the scene. It just needs to exist in your project. So let's just put our square brackets, our lovely square brackets, and we'll be using our Unity editor for this one, and we're using a menu item. So before I write in anything in here, let's just explain what we're actually doing. We are making a function which can be accessed by the top row in Unity. So by up in here, we're going to have our own little drop down, and we'll have our own little tools that we can run. So this is a great way of just making little tools and running them really easily in the editor. So all we need to do in here is, like I said, oops, I'm going to be making some custom tools, and the tools, we'll call them, well, what? This section will be do stuff, and the thing we're going to do is do a thing. Of course it is. Yeah, so now that we've done that and we have this as a static, we should just be able to save this and come over to Unity, and then you can see up here we have our custom tools. We can go do stuff and do a thing. We go do a thing and it did a thing. And like I said, because it's a static, we can actually remove this object from the scene and still come up here and do a thing. And as you can see, it went up to 2. So it will work even if the object isn't in the scene, which is pretty cool. It's good to know statics, and it's good to know how to use them, so maybe I'll do a video on that soon as well. That's some things about attributes in Unity and some really cool things we can do with them. It makes your life a lot easier, so I do recommend playing around with them and finding how they best fit your workflow. So yeah, hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. If there's any other videos you'd like to see, leave a suggestion in the comments. In the description there's a link to our Discord. If you come over there, you can also suggest videos and be a part of the community. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you again.